All right. Hi. Hello to anyone who could possibly be watching this on the hindsight of the internet. I know you're not watching this live because how could you? It means you've hacked into my computer. Don't do that. There's nothing there worth getting. But anyway, most definitely you're probably watching this later on after we've recorded this, in which case you're watching a game that was arranged through the Gauntlet, which is a community on the internet that gets together and plays tabletop role-playing games online. We've been doing this since the arse end of 2016 and still going strong. You can find all the stuff the Gauntlet does at gauntlet-rpg.com. You'll find all sorts of stuff like blogs, forums. There's a monthly zine that Gauntlet puts out called Codex, which usually contains supplements to existing games and original games in itself. There's also the extensive podcasting network with lots of different podcasts. I remember correctly, Plus One Forward, which is a podcast all about Power by the Apocalypse, just put out a new episode which deals about playing games online, which is which is really helpful, I would say, for folks who are like dipping their toes into either transferring their existing games online or just trying things out for the first time online. Really, really great stuff from Rich and Rach. And of course, there's also the Hangouts calendar to which this and many other online games are arranged. Again, find them at gauntlet-rpg.com. There'll be a link down below. This game in question is called Into the Dark. It is a Forged in the Dark game by Strash Ashamovic and John W. Sheldon. You might know Strash from other Forged in the Dark games such as Scum and Villainy and Band of Blades. Forged in the Dark, for those who don't know, means this is a hack of Blades in the Dark by John Harper. While Blades in the Dark is all about thieves, rogues, scoundrels trying to make it on top in an industrial fantasy city, Into the Dark is about trying to survive in a mix of familiar dungeon delving fantasy stuff. You're adventurers, you are delvers going off into strange unknown abodes and trying to either help save the world or just make some money along the way, but mixed with a post-apocalyptic horror tinged world. You are in this land that's been submerged in this darkness called the Murk. It is more than just darkness. It is a miasma that hates the light. It devours flame and warps the living. And when lands are threatened, when a well of darkness or a night well emerges from a certain place, delvers or adventurers are called upon to bear the silver flame to close this night well. If you're lucky, you might make it back with treasures from the world before the Murk. If you're careful, you might just survive your expedition in the dark, maybe make some money, or maybe just survive with as few scars as possible. Who knows? All right, so we kind of did introductions before chat, but because people might be watching this, people might want to know who these lovely people are who are about to delve into the unlit lands, previously lit lands that used to be lit but aren't, sadly enough. So they're not a party land anymore. I should introduce myself as well. Hi, my name's Leandro. I use him pronouns. I'm the GM of this. And many others. I guess if you're looking at this YouTube channel, check out all the stuff that I've run for the Gauntlet. I've been running stuff since the arse end of 2018. And there's a lot of stuff there. Check them out. I'll go around the same order I went through pre-recording. So first I'll call on Philip to introduce himself and the exotic land from which you're reporting from. Hi, Philip.
Oh yes, I'm coming from the Shire apparently. Yes, I'm Philip. He/him pronouns. I've been with the Gauntlet. I probably played maybe a dozen times over the past couple of years. Um, like the game. Relatively new to online stuff, but definitely excited to see a new system.
Oh, yeah. Next, I have to call on Stephen to introduce himself.
Hey there, I'm Steven, he/him. I've been here at the Gauntlet for approaching half a year now. Yep, I have no online presence, don't need to go looking for me, won't find anything interesting.
I will say, though, Stephen has popped up in quite a number of gauntlet adventure, so to speak, recorded online, and he is always a hoot. So if you look through the gauntlet playlist, you'll probably find him in sundry games. And last but not least, Liana, would you kindly introduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm Liana. I'm a nerdy trans girl from the UK, and this is the first time playing game either with the Gauntlet or that's ever been recorded, which is terrifying.
Oh, don't worry, not many people watch these things. That's the honest, that's the God's honest truth.
Don't worry, a dozen eyes might cast judgment upon you.
That's a dozen more eyes than I like judging me.
Well, I will say most people who like watch stuff or at least drawn to Gauntlet stuff, they're usually like, they don't judge. They're
They'll
here
all be
to,
judging Leandro.
yeah, I'll take all the
Yeah.
judgments. It's fine. Like,
Yeah.
like fact that I'm developing a Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire-esque haircut, judge that. I'm just in my slacks.
Oh, I was. I was.
Oh, yeah, of course you are. I'm getting a haircut from someone who's watched YouTube tutorials tomorrow, so there'll be even more judging. Find out the results of that next week. Anyway, we're getting to another tangent of myself. But before we dive into the game, I do want to talk about the safety tools that we're using to bring that up for not just for anyone who's watching, but for all of us here on the table. First off, I asked y'all to look at our lines and veils. For those who don't know, lines are things that just won't be crossed, just won't show up in the fiction at all. Veils are things that can happen in fiction, but we're not gonna concentrate on it. Like it happens off screen, or it gets a sentence or two. Like it can still happen, but we move the camera away, so to speak. We are also using script change for one of our other safety tools. Basically, it's like a set of commands that basically allow us to like control the pace of play and just make sure that we're comfortable in our own skins as we're playing. Actually, I'll put a link to the dice roller room that we're using because some of the commands are on there. The ones that specifically I want to shout out is rewind. Basically, when you rewind, you back up to a specific point in the scene and do the scene over again, avoiding whatever issue led to the rewind and trying a different way. I might ask some questions on like what's being rewound, but no one gets a question if that's played. We're just gonna we'll respect that things rewound. It could be anything. It could be a name, could be like a moment in the scene, or even just a entire tenor of the scene itself. We'll respect that and we will rewind and try something else. There's also pause. Basically, if you need a break from an intense scene, or maybe you need to take a bio break, or you need to step away from the table for any reason, might be an emergency you need to take care of, we'll pause the game, and at any point, even if I don't know, you're in this like death-defying sequence where you're riding a minecart down this collapsing tunnel of bones and bracelets, I don't know, something like that, and you have to make this near fatal jump from one minecart to another, and someone has to be like, I really need to go, I need to use the toilet, which I might have to because I'm already halfway through this mug of coffee. We will pause the game at any time. It's perfectly fine. There's also a frame by frame. Actually, no, it's not on the bottom. Actually, look at fast forward. Fast forward is basically, we fade to black. Advanced time is needed to avoid content elements of play. Like, we don't need to concentrate on X happening. We can just fast forward and move on. So those are kind of like the safety tools that we have on the table. Now let's get into the game. So I've kind of like described the pitch of the game. We are in this kind of like post-apocalyptic world, and you are all like adventurers who brave strange and alien darkness-covered environments to protect their homes. In the process, hope to recover valuables and find information on the world that existed before the dark. So that's kind of like what we're going to be doing today and next week, because we're only here for like 2 sessions. So we're just going to like see if we can run through an expedition, have fun, do an adventure too, and see how we all get on. So I'm not going to explain how the game works. We'll do that when we go into play. First, I think we'll just go straight into character creation, unless folks have any questions they want to bring up now. If not, I'd like to direct you all to the drive folder that I sent you all once I finally set the correct link. Oops. We'll go through character creation step by step, just so like everyone here knows kind of like the process. And for those who might be watching, because I'm not sure if Into the Dark is a thing that's popped up around actual plays or recordings or whatnot. So nice to give a demonstration. Apologies, the three of you are guinea pigs for this demonstration. Okay, so there is a player print packet file in the folder, unless I royally mess things up, but it should be there. And page 2 has like the step by step, and we'll go through it one by one. So actually, hold on. Actually, before we do that, actually, we should go through like the 4 playbooks, because there's only 4, and you can't double up. If I remember this correctly, this isn't like Powered by the Apocalypse. So I guess I'll go through each 4 and then ask which ones like pique your interest. So the first one is the Murk Hunter. These are the athletic badasses of the group. They're the ones who wield the big swords. Who take the fight to the Murk. They're the ones tough. They wield weapons. They're war machines and whatnot. Which is useful when you're fighting big creepy monsters. Next up is the Lightbringer. This is someone who's like attuned to the Silver Flame, and the Silver Flame is basically kind of like this awe-inspiring divine source that's keeping the Murk at bay. So Lightbringer is it's all about fire and magic and healing things. Yeah, they're the ones who kind of like they're
Reading
also
the book, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, reading the book, they kind of seem in between an awe-inspiring divine source and a power company.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they're usually the ones who have hold of the light cage, which is important because that's what you need to close down these evil wells. But there might be people who take power from the Murk, and that's what Shadowbinders are. They channel the Murk and use it to summon shades, shape the shadow into their own weapons, use blood magic or whatnot. It's they dance in the dark, so to speak. That's their shtick. And last but not least, there's the Explorer. They're kind of like the techie. They're good at tinkering. They're good at like looting stuff. They're good at like going through the world. They're the smart ones, I'd say. And also, I'll point out that like each of the playbooks, they come with like XP triggers and they're kind of like they start at row 43 in the sheet. So like if you don't know exactly which one to go, look at those XP triggers and see which ones you're interested in like pursuing and whatnot. So I'll give you a moment to like look through those playbooks, see what interests yourselves.
So I was thinking that the Lightbearer looks cool. Is anyone else interested in that one?
No, I was looking at the Shadowbinder myself.
I guess I will go with the Muck Hunter. Or the Murk Hunter.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, claim those. I'm gonna hide the poor explorer. No one wants to be the normie smart one. Yeah, so claim those, and then keep going through the step-by-step character creation. So, first you kind of like choose, who were you before you became a Murk Delver or a Delver. So you can choose like a category, which I did not put there in this sheet because I made this sheet a couple months ago, then put up this
nice.
game and I forgot to like update it until the very last minute. And this like who you were before your previous occupation, it's kind of mostly flavor. So you choose like a character category, which I put in the chat, heretic, craftsman, peasant, religious scoundrel, and noble, and then you detail it. Maybe perhaps you're a religious mute scribe who copied script in silver, or a peasant red bulb farmer, or a heretic apprentice to a Murk binder. I would say something that I didn't think was really clear in the book is that like because this is a post-apocalypse, the ancient world that before is clearly kind of our world. So the ancient ruins aren't like old medieval castles, but more like malls. Or one of the examples of the book, like there's this like emperor wyvern who's taken command of this like football stadium, and forces people to play gladiatorial combat in that football stadium. So when they say post-apocalypse, kind of like our post-apocalypse, not like a medieval fantasy. It's not like Dark Souls post-apocalypse, although it kind of is. Anyway, I'm rambling. Yeah, have a thought about your previous occupation. And then straight after that will be, we're going to select your character's attributes and toughening. So attributes are those big 3 words. They're blown up there: prowess, insight, and resolve. They kind of like determine, they're kind of like what you're going to be rolling. And and you see like there's a note there that's denoting like what they mean to each. So like say if I say you're going to do a thing and it involves fighting or athletics or having to carry a big door or something like that. I don't know why you want to carry the door, but you might have to. You're going to be rolling prowess. If you want to like figure out what's happening in the world, like you just see if there's an ambush happening, or like try to figure out which door leads to what. That's probably insight. And if you want to like try to like tough it out, use your mental anime powers to overpower the dark or something like that, your willpower, or try to persuade others your way, that's resolve. So attributes will range from 0 to 2. You're going to pick 1 attribute to start at 1 and 2 attributes at 0. But because we're only doing 2 sessions, I'm going to allow you to add a +1 to any of them. Oh, I will say, like, hold on. What am I looking at? Sorry, I'm just looking at the sheet. I'm like, why did I do this right? Did I format this right?
Nice work on these sheets. You've done a really good job with them.
Oh, thanks. I should see some of what sheets the other folks in Gauntlet have done there. Some of them are like, the autofill stuff, I can't figure that out. Or I don't have the time to figure that out. Shout out the Gauntlet Play Aid folder. I'll put a link down in the YouTube description for anyone who might be watching this. It's just like a cornucopia of character sheets for online play for a bunch of indie games and story games, PBTA, OSR stuff. Lots of like resources for playing games online. So I'll put a link down below to that folder. The other thing you need to pick is your toughenings. So toughenings are like those 2 check boxes next to each attribute. They indicate your capacity to anticipate and deal with problems in that domain. So you're going to pick 2 for your character. An attribute has a max of 2 toughenings. Again, because we're only here for 2 sessions, I'm going to give you like an extra 1. Toughenings kind of like determine your resistance, as in when you resist a consequence, they kind of determine how much dice you roll.
Can you give an example with that? So you say there's 2 for, I'm kind of lost.
Yeah. Oh, there's 2. Each attribute can have a max of 2 toughenings.
Okay.
You're gonna have like 3 to like give around to each. You can have 3 anyway. You can pick like, you can either like say you can pick a resolve can have 2 toughenings and insight can have 1, or you can pick like 1 toughening for each. Basically, you have a max of like 3 like checks.
And this is the abilities.
No, they're not the abilities. These are the boxes next to the attributes. Okay, we'll get to abilities, which I realize in another. I've written down as actions in another one. That's not right. Oops. That's meant to be actions, not abilities. Like that. Very quickly fix that. Okay.
Wait, so where are these checkboxes? These up to 3 checkboxes I'm looking for then?
They're the ones to the left of the attributes.
Oh, okay, I see. I was using those to mark the value. Okay, I see.
Yeah, sorry, that's my bad. I should clarify that the box to the right is when you add like the value.
I mean, that could be a change you make in the character sheets, having the label
Yeah.
for like toughening attributes and value.
Yeah. Okay. I've just figured out how to be able to do that and not break the formatting. I'm not going to do that in the middle of play.
Wait, why not? This is clearly a spreadsheets like video.
Yeah, clearly that's what we're meant to do. We're to
Yes.
demonstrate the versatility of Google Sheets. Okay, give Steven a bit of time to like just remind you that attributes the rating ranges from 0 to 2. You're gonna pick one attribute to start at 1 and 2 attributes at 0, but I'm gonna give you a +1 to give to either of those 3.
So before I go along with this, would having a shade that's a horrible vampire baby, not actually a baby, it just looks like a horrible vampire baby. Is that going too far over into the harm to children line?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, just checking.
I feel like if it looks like a child and suffers, that's
Okay.
a bit too close.
I just wanted to check in before I went too far with that idea.
Okay. So yeah, attribute has a max of 2 toughenings. And the one after that is you're gonna pick an ability from your Murk Delver's list. They're right below the attributes. And again, because we are only here for 2 sessions, I'm gonna let you pick an extra ability. So you pick 2.
Aren't we lucky?
One of mine is +6 hit points permanently. How many hit points do we start with so I know how big an increase that is?
You start with 6.
Okay, so it's double.
Mm-hmm. So after abilities, next thing you'll pick is, so your playbook starts with one action that's set. So say for the, whatchamacallit, the Merc Hunter, you started with Skirmish and you get to pick another one. But again, because we're only here for 2 sessions, you'll pick an extra one. So you actually start with 3 actions, not 2. Because, we're only going to be here 2 sessions. We're not going to be here for a long, drag-out campaign. And, your characters might die. So you might as well enjoy some of what the game has to offer. And yeah, there should be notes in each action, kind of like describing what they kind of like entail. So if you like hover over the word for the actions. So once that's done, you note on your sheet your health points, corruption and stress. By default, each character starts with 6 health points, 0 out of 4 corruption, and 0 out of 4 stress, which is already there. Those 4 boxes are all the stress you can have, and whenever you use up stress, you'll check them off. Okay. Then I think the last thing we'll do is we're gonna roll for coin, and then I'm gonna let you like maybe write some more stuff about your previous occupation or like add some like character details. There, that box next to image link is usually like, hey, if you put a link to an image, it'll populate that big box there. But if you don't have a specific image, you can just write your looks into the box itself. If you'd rather do that. And also the very last thing is you roll for a coin, how much coin you have to spend. We're not going to purchase gear at the moment because you don't know what expedition you're going to get into, because I have a choice for y'all. But in the for those who haven't used it yet, there's in the link safety and links, there's the roll for a party. Again, I put a link there. That's where we're going to do our dice rolling. And you'll notice the light bearer gets way more coin at the start compared to everyone else.
Oh, nice. Where do I see that?
If you hover over coin, the note will pop up.
Oh, right you are. Oh, nice.
Yeah, because light bearers are usually, they're apprenticed to the Order of the Silver Flame. They're the ones keeping society intact. So if you're going to be an aspirant, you're
Well,
going to be kitted out.
that's a good roll to start, huh?
What you got? Oh my God!
So, what was your previous occupation?
Hobbler.
You must make really good shoes.
When the world goes to hell, if your feet hurt, this is one of the few things that it really pays to spend money on.
Or you just make really bad ones.
Yes, they get repaired all the time.
That doesn't look right.
It's a lot of coin.
Okay. So just to confirm, is this... I'm assuming the system doesn't work like a Forge of the Dark game, so you don't get to declare equipment in the mission?
No, yeah, you have to either buy or rent equipment for going into an expedition. That's why we're not going to do that yet, because you don't know what the expedition is. Because I have a choice, so we'll just have coin.
And when something has a slash, 1/3, what does that mean?
Let me double check. I forget which order.
I imagine
one of them is like to rent, and the other one is like permanently owned.
Okay.
Let me double check which one. It's like again.
Well, assuming the rent is the cheaper one.
Yeah, I assume so. If you're renting an item, you must pay the rental cost before each expedition. Acquiring an item for just one expedition can take many forms. Maybe the alchemical has limited shelf life. items made of precious material, etc., etc. Items with a dash instead of the first number cannot be rented. Either the item is too precious to send into the Murk when it's unlikely to return, or it's so rare that a permanent source can't be acquired. So some of you already start with like stuff you own. So like our Murk hunter here has an armor kit, which should be terribly useful, and our light bearer has their smoggers and communicator marbles, which is really neat. Unfortunately, a shadow biter doesn't start with anything owned from the start. Okay, so I think.
Where do you see the things owned from the start?
Um, if the box that says owned is already checked.
Oh, okay, I see.
So. But the shadow binder has none. They don't start with anything owned. Let me double check that actually. Yeah. I'm just looking at the sheet. Yeah, shadow binder starts with none. Okay, so we're coming up to an hour, and we've done quite a bit of character creation. So, and I always like to separate character creation from the actual play. So I think let's see, what's a good long break? Let's give it a good old 10 minutes. Come back at 24 past the hour, if that's okay, folks. And then we'll get started.
Sounds good.
I'll see you all in a bit.
See ya.
All right, welcome back. To everyone who could be watching this. Let's just jump right into it. So I'm gonna like set like kind of like the scene where you all kind of like come together. But first, I kind of like want a short like snapshot of each character, kind of like living their lives in between adventures. Because the thing with delving is like it's not like the main gig. You do have kind of like some lives in between having to do these adventures. So if, like I'll give you all a minute to think of like what do we see of each character, kind of like just like a quick description of like what they're doing, maybe like what they look like, and maybe even their name, um, as we see them before we kind of like bring them all together.
Okay, I can jump in.
Cool.
My character is Defan. He uses he/him pronouns. He's been the village cobbler his whole life. His father was a cobbler, and his grandfather was a cobbler. So everybody just assumed was the life that he was going to take. Well, you spend a lot of hours hunched over a table, repeatedly doing the same thing. So it gives you a lot of time to daydream. So what Devan did was he put every penny aside that he had. He spent most of his time running through what he would potentially do as a hero in his head, and now he finally has the opportunity to don the armor that he's saved up his whole life for, and actually dash out and be the hero that he's always wanted to be. This is going to be his opportunity to find out if he's any good at it.
Yeah. So like we probably like get a shot of like him, doing his day's work and seeing that like I'm imagining there's like a church for the Order of the Silver Flame in this village, and you see like one of the church officials is like coming out to like and this is the one is like the one who kind of like hands out like the jobs so to speak. They're the ones who handle like what's happening out there. I'm imagining they're wearing like these like robes. Well, actually, no. I'll ask our light bearer here because you may be involved with the Order of the Silver Flame. What do church officials or officials of the order kind of like wear?
Ooh, see, see, I now don't really want to just go away from what the book has said, which is that like it's kind of like white robes and silver armor, and I think that kind of aesthetic is taken even if like they're not wearing true armor. So like they'll always be wearing kind of pristine white robes and like like silver necklaces that give the impression of armor, like big and heavy, covering their chest, or like like pauldrons attached to like to their clothes. It's always the aesthetic of militarism.
Hell yeah. Um, since we kind of like have the spotlight on you, where do we see your character?
Oh, sure. So my name is Amber, she, her, and I think Amber's this like quite middle-aged woman, hair like long since gone grey. She's like thin and gaunt face, and she wears these like big glasses with like multiple lenses, so kind of like an insect's eyes. So you see, so you see her eyes like refracted like a dozen times in her face, and she's like sitting hunched over like the light of fire, like reflecting like off of her glasses and playing on her face. And she just like is putting wood, a stick of wood into a small flame, blowing it out, and then going through a book and anything that seems to be impure, improper, unrighteous. You're just having charcoal like drawn across the text. And once she finishes a page, she like blows it off, and underneath where the charcoal was is just pristine white, going through this huge stack of books beside her.
Nice. I think like as you're working, suddenly you hear like or I was tapping my laptop, that's why it sounded weak. But yeah, a tapping on like the table near you, and when you look up, one of your like fellow like members of the order just kind of like very quickly just says, "Brother Venture has a task for you."
Well then, I'd best go see what our brother wants.
And they bow, not they nod in a bowing
Mm-hmm.
manner, and yeah, you know where to find Brother Venture. He'll be outside the church, looking for adventurers.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we see the last member of our lovely entourage?
Well, I think we kind of open with Hazel at attending a childbirth, and she has sort of scrawled these runes in probably like pig's or hen's blood across the belly of the expectant mother. And we kind of see, like, I kind of cut it in a montage, like the child being born, and then Hazel, who is kind of a middle-aged, well, probably actually a bit past middle-aged, probably in her 50s woman, carrying out the call wrapped in a blanket to the edge of the light, and then like digging with a shovel and like digging up a hole, putting the call in, and then calling out into the dark. The child is healthy. Now come and take your pay. And we see something like dark and skittering and monstrous at the edge come towards to take the call.
God. Hell yeah. So I think kind of like when we cut away from that montage, it cuts back to like what passes for day in the lit lands, which is to say it looks like there's sun, but like instead of the sun coming from the sky, it's coming from the church building. And Brother Venture, who we've described as looking quite militaristic, has come out of the church doors, and he's like shuffling through a bunch of like paper and parchment, it's kind of like missives, a bunch of what to what's happening. Basically, consider him the equivalent of a video game of a Witcher 3 bulletin board. Is basically what he is at the moment. And yeah, he's waiting for the three of you, or at least brave delvers, to come and take on these tasks. Who comes to him first?
I'm happy to.
Cool.
I think I come up to him. What does he look like?
He looks younger than you, I
Mhm.
think. He looks clean and handsome. He looks like he does look like a fantasy RPG protagonist. Just kind of like these high cheekbones. He really fills in that garb that he's got on. In fact, he doesn't look like he's religious. He looks like the type to rule over an estate or something. He looks elegant, which is it's a bit it's weird in the aesthetic of the order.
Brother Venture, it's good to see you.
Sister Amber.
You're looking very well.
Well, one has to be an example for all to see. The order gives us our tasks, and we try to fulfill them. Sister Amber, have you seen much practical work go your way?
The light of the flame is reflected, whether it is reflected in the books or out in the darkness. Things I read are the same as the steps taken outside these walls.
Well, sister, we might have to test that in the next few days. One finds that reading may not be comparable to staring or venturing into the dark, but we have need of such eyes as yourself in the coming days.
And I am all too happy to use my eyes. And I think, like, as I'm saying, the camera showing that, like, kind of like a big, like, wide grin, but all the tiny reflections of my of my eyes are clearly not smiling.
Yeah. Okay, so I think, like, for anyone else who's coming, Brother Venture has not been looking at you this whole time. He has been shuffling through his papers, for sure. So how do we see, like, Devon or Hazel?
I would see Devon going. I'm assuming that he's probably known these people his entire life, and he just walks in and he proudly says, I've finally purchased the sword and the armor, and the time is for me to show what I can do out in the world."
So you have come to be tempered, Devon.
Always. I think I have a lot to add, more so than just behind a cobbler's bench.
Well, it is not for me to deny anyone who wants to be toughened, but given that it is not me who will be coming with you, but my sister here, perhaps it is up to her to see if you will be tempered well.
I glance over and I just say, I've spent my entire life building my ability to handle punishment, building the strength of my arms, and my ability to bear down and get things accomplished. I'm ready.
These are all great virtues in a person, and I look forward to seeing you use them for the good of all. So do be careful, Davon. After all, I've always been a great fan of your work, and your father's never been quite so good as you became.
I appreciate that, and I plan on coming back here and telling people a lot of the stories about what we've accomplished. That's part of the reason. There's not really a whole lot of cobbling tales to be told.
I think Brother Venture, before we get to Hazel, like I think he speaks up. On contraire, David, I believe Mother Virtue still rhapsodizes about those clogs that you gave her on her 80th.
I remember that was a fierce hobnail. It had to be battened down exactly correctly. You have to avoid the corn. It was tough, but I managed.
I think like you get like a glimmer of a smile from Brother Venture, just a tiny hint. And yeah, how do we see Hazel enter this scene?
Hazel comes in, sees Dave on with his sword, rolls her eyes. They finally gave him a sword. Not going to be good for Davon or the town, I should think. But
I think like Brother Venture kind of like looks up, sees you, Hazel, and you can tell like he immediately has this like colder kind of bearing upon him.
Brother Venture, still a brainless stick in the mud, I see.
I apologize, Hazel, if the fruits of my labor are too subtle for all of the village to appreciate. There's a lot to be said for coordinating the ranks of hundreds of our order amongst several different settlements, but well,
How old is he?
let's see. He's younger than Amber for sure. He looks like he's only reached late 20s, early 30s, maybe, just around the 29-30 mark.
You're a goddamn colicky baby, Venture, and I can't say the years have improved upon that disposition.
I think like he purses his lips and says and just kind of like gives Amber a look as if just to say like, yeah, mark that one, just keep an eye on that one.
After all, Brother Venture, the warmth of the hearth belongs to everyone, not just those you're fond of.
It belongs to those who are willing to spread its light. And I think like he grows up this paper, so he gets into serious mode and kind of like brings the three of you like together. For there is little light in certain parts of our lands of late. We've had here 2 reports of 2 settlements who have been laid low and scattered thanks to the Murk. One here in the seaside settlement of Doncaster, where folks were trying to rebuild the old ships to venture forth into the sea. They found themselves set upon by some craft from beyond the sea and have been scattered. Their town claimed by creatures of the Murk in black crystal and ebony. Woe that it be the only calamity to fall upon us, but there are reports of a town in the east, the town of Tyrell, that the report of quakes, of tremors coming from the north, tremors that have created great gashes into the earth that have begun to break through their fortifications. These gashes have been said to spew the most foul of smells, the most noxious of gases. They do not know where these tremors come from or their source, but they know it to be well up north. Now, I don't recall knowing of any ability of the three of you to split yourselves into multiple forms and take care of all calamities, so I must ask you, which one would you prioritize? It's giving you the choice, basically. There's the menu, and you have to pick.
Devon is the new guy, kind of takes the back seat. He's not exactly. He doesn't know at this point.
Well, I think I'm personally more interested in what we as players are excited by rather than what our characters are. Because I feel like if there's a particular story that we are excited to hear about and tell.
So the latter option was the earthquakes, and noxious gases. What was the first?
A seaside town has been attacked by some ancient vessel carrying creatures of black crystal and ebony.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, the earthquake tends to bring us underground, probably, and that just might be fun.
I'm very happy to delve into
Yeah.
the underground with you.
Hell yeah. So who in character, who speaks up and goes for the latter option?
The people...
Can't say noxious odors has ever been something to put me off from a job.
And the people by the sea were fools to think that they could ever truly cross the ocean. That place is far too dangerous now. Whereas maybe there's still hope for our friends in the north.
I think that sounds lovely.
I think Brother Venture is just like sigh and kind of like just hands out like the quote unquote briefing packet, which because this is a post-apocalypse, I imagine it's like it's like A4 sheets of paper. It's not really parchment. It's there are like binding holes to its side. But yeah, I think we'll kind of like montage it out. The three of you are going off the journey up north to the town of Tyrell, and we'll abstract out kind of like what kind of let's get to Tyrell first, and then we'll abstract out buying gear, and you'll get kind of like the info when you get there. So I'm imagining when you kind of like let's paint the scene a bit of this journey. Kind of like I want each of you to like give me a detail that each character kind of like notices as they travel up north. Through like protected roads that the Order of the Flame are just keeping lit, so to speak. Yes, ask each of you like a detail.
I guess the big thing for Devon is since he hasn't really left the town all that much, he's surprised with how open things are and how there are huge gaps of open territory between areas that are protected by the watch. So this is a moment where he realizes that at any given point they could absolutely be ambushed or bushwhacked. That's what would jump out for him.
Sounds cool.
So are you feeling quite paranoid about that? Do we see a lot of Devon like looking over like your shoulder and like peering into the darkness?
No, but it's more like if you grew up in a city your entire life and suddenly you know that if you run into trouble you can always call a cop or there's an ambulance close by. Now that he's out there, he realizes that if something happens, there isn't anybody else. Nobody's coming, and that's his first exposure to that.
About for Hazel or Amber?
I think one. So the land is dark, right? And so we're just like this, like carrying a lantern, like carrying a few lanterns. We have the only source of light, just in this like endless darkness. Like and eventually, and I think that along the roads there are these small waypoints, which are like little shrines, and they might be like tucked into a tree that grows by the road, or it might be like a small wooden covering that people have made themselves, normally full of candles that people come and like while they travel, they place new candles there and like either pray for protection or just do it because it's what they've always done, depending on how committed they truly are. And I think at one point we come across uh, one of these bases, made of, I think, like old metal that have been held together and tied together, but knocked to the floor, um, and all of the candles scattered all over the ground, and some of them still warm to the touch, as if this had only happened recently. And I think hurry us along.
What about Hazel? What does she notice?
I think that the darkness beyond our light is never ever really still. There's always a sense that it almost, when you look at it closely, there's almost as if it writhes upon itself, like tendrils and limbs always kind of churning just at the edge of our light.
Oh, it's always fun to deal with tendrils. I think, yeah, I think after like, quite some time, maybe like a day or two of travel, you end up on like the south end of Tyrell, and everything looks fine. What I think, I guess what the players, or at least maybe the people watching this would probably notice, like you're kind of like at the edge of there's like these like rows of old derelict like houses, and they all kind of look like the same. And for us in the modern world, you realize, oh, it's kind of like the edge of a suburb or something. But to I guess people this world are like, why do all these houses look the same? And they just keep going. What's up with that? And I think this town of Tyrell is quite it could be almost like any other settlement. It's a lot like the village you came from, which we probably should have named. But I think you all notice immediately the smell. It stinks here. It's the smell of rot is kind of like permeating the air, and I think the member of the Order of the Silver Flame that's here is kind of keeping watch. Let's see, this one is Sister Charter. I think she's kind of like explaining as she's kind of hurrying the three of you towards like the north end, and she's saying like, we had nary a warning. It was just any other day here in Tyrell when the ground lurched. It lurched, and the ground began to give way, and before we know it, this stench just sprang up from the earth itself. And and she kind of like directs you to like the scene, and you see that like the northern part of Tyrell has these barricades that look like it's made up of like piled up cars that have been fastened together by wood and with wooden boards and whatnot. But the middle part has fallen down into the earth because this like big like gash into the earth has just opened up, and it smells bad, and you can kind of see at the bottom the shadows are like bubbling in there. It's like they're like this bubbling substance, kind of like coming from there. And Sister Charter's like, we believe these tremors are coming from the north, but we have nary a person to spare. We must rebuild these barricades while there is time, but we have no one to send. I'm glad the order down south has sent delvers to relieve us of our troubles.
The Order would never leave its own in darkness. Not while one of us still stands.
There's a bit of a snort from Hazel, but she doesn't say anything.
Yeah. Devon, is there anything you want to say? Otherwise, we'll have to get to business now.
Oh, it's absolutely business time.
Yeah. So, now is the time for y'all to spend that coin that you started with, to buy some gear for the expedition. So, and I'll give you some more details, as Sister Charters kind of said. Like the area up north is lots more of these buildings. It's a sprawl of urban development, to use a modern geographic term. A lot of these like cookie cutter like buildings all kind of the same. Part of why people built Tyrell down south is because it's hard to like map out that area. But these gashes, there's like these cracks in the earth, they are like coming from a place. They're not just popping out of nowhere. This one, I think she kind of intimates like if you follow this one, you'll reach the source of these quakes. And maybe every now and then, as you're kind of like doing business here in Tyrell, you feel like tiny like tremors, a bit of aftershock or two. Yeah. So that's kind of like the details. So you're going up north and to kind of like get to the epicenter of this, which is more often than not what's called a night well. And usually the job is take a piece of the silver flame to the night well, throw that piece in, and kaboom, night well gone.
Okay. Seems simple enough.
Of course, what you know is like whenever a night well comes up, there's a thing called a shade. Usually comes out of it. A shade is Murk made flesh. Usually you deal with Murk beasts, which are creatures infected by the Murk and turned into, creatures in the thrall of the Murk. But a shade comes from the night well itself. So think of a shade as like a final boss, basically, for a dungeon.
So I might need 2 swords, is what you're saying.
I think Sister Charter's like, if that's what you're well used to, I wouldn't presume to say otherwise to a delver.
Yes, expert delver here.
Okay, so so the way like getting gear works is like, the first number is like how much it costs to rent it, and the other number is how much it costs to own it permanently. Because otherwise you have to keep buying it again for each expedition if you just rent the thing. And also,
I think
like,
that we should probably figure out if there's some shared stuff we need, because I see you both guys have both got climbing kits. I was going to get one too, but we probably don't need 3.
Also, someone needs to hold the light cage, which is at the very bottom of the list of items. So
I guess it would make sense if I did.
Yeah, you also usually benefit more from having it on hand, since most of your powers draw from it.
Okay. Also, you'll need to pick your speed, which is how much you're carrying, and how quickly you'll be. It affects like how much dice you'll have, or what kind of advantages or disadvantages you get when rolling. So we don't need to do that.
Let's see. Red line doesn't count.
Also, I need to roll how much y'all are getting paid. Okay. I think the accountant, the order accountant, who looks very harried and it's kind of like going through like the Tyrell's coffers, are kind of like, they pull out 8 coin, not 8 coin each for you, but just 8 coin. Dice don't lie. Sorry.
I just stare at him flat and dead with a dead eye. Now it seems that you people don't really place much value upon all of your own lives, do you?
We have to think about tomorrow. That's a tenet of the order. We can. There's always another day. There is always the next day. So we always think of the next day.
Well, suppose a lot of us are gonna have to just go then. And I'm can I make rolls against? Because most of these are like 4 against like clearly threats. But I feel like I am trying to threaten him.
Yeah. I don't know if you can.
Okay.
The thing is, well, you can also pick up loot.
Okay.
Conversing, you can sell your own stuff.
I know. I just wanted.
So I'm sorry. I'm not gonna fudge this dice roll. You're
Okay.
getting 8 coin.
I think that's perfectly great for a single periods of work, but maybe you're used to getting a lot more money than I am.
All right. Let me double check the notes for this expedition. See what comes up first.
Just so from a meta perspective, I'm carrying a load of 7, so I'm in the normal range. I've got basically my heavy armor, a shield, a hand weapon, a bow, and basically a bow and bolts. Red line, which I think we all have, or is that just a me thing? That's basically like adrenaline. The other thing I'm carrying is a harvest kit, so I can turn monster bits into loot.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also got a screamer, which is when shattered will lure distract Murk beasts.
Ooh.
Which is a one-time use thing, paid for the adventure. But I think at some point we might want to, we might want them to go in a different direction from us. That being said, I really don't have a light source, and I'm going to rely on people to get me places. So I don't know what you guys are carrying and if I need to change up at all.
What do we see? Like, yeah, what everyone else is packing, just so we all know.
Yeah, I figure I think our terminology is a little bit more meta, but our characters would probably be having this conversation.
What does Amber have?
So Amber's wearing like the armor that's the Order of the Flame all wear. There's like big silvery breastplate that like shines and has like etchings of like flame decals all over it, but in a cool way, not in like the spray painted way you see on a bad car. I also have like a two-handed weapon, which I'm imagining to be this like long metal staff with like a chain attached to the end, and that chain like being attached to the light of the silver flame, like the holder of the silver flame, which is this like sensor almost sensor with like light constantly emitting from it, and like a slow like trail of smoke that kind of smoke that smells like beautiful and fresh and clean, like wood smoke when you're outside, like that like lovely smell of clean wood burning in the distance, as well as like a climbing kit, a like smoggers, which are like cigarettes that produce smoke, like huge amounts of it. A whisper, which is like a marble, which allows you to like speak to like others across a distance. And a rebreather, which is like pre-Murk tech. So it's just like despite everything else being quite basic and like things that have been made by hand with fairly like basic skills, this is like a proper like ventilator, like a modern day ventilator. But the linings and filters that have worn away have been replaced with the cloth filled with like sweet smelling herbs. Oh, also some black water, which is an alchemical agent which ignites on contact with air.
Hey, that's always fun to have that. Cool. What's Hazel? Back and then.
Hazel is wearing a pretty thick set of leathers, probably like this kind of heavy aprony type like leather, probably with some thick gloves as well. She has an athame that she uses for rituals. Yeah, that's kind of how she's kitted out in the obvious stuff. I also just have some I probably like not technically renting these, like I probably made them, but it's just they're very expensive, the ingredients of some black candles that I use for ritual summoning as well, wrapped up in my pack.
Hell yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna take an opportunity to pause for a moment because I really need to use the toilet. Let's take a quick 5 minutes, and then yeah, we'll venture out and find out what the hell are causing these earthquakes that smell. Apparently, smelly earthquakes. Don't want to do that. All right, so we're back. We are just about to jump into looking for, as mentioned, the source of this smelly earthquake. Great. Now I'm just going to call it a smelly earthquake in my head and in this video because why not? Why don't I undermine myself? Yeah. So yeah, I think we will just like start off with like the three of you kind of like just venturing forth. I do want to ask, is there anything your characters would like be doing before you cross like kind of like past the barricade and follow this gash forward?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So you go ahead. You go.
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. I was thinking I'd try to find some sort of information about what lies to the north, and also what lies outside the barricades. So, who would be the kind of person that who would be in charge of the defense of this town and like keeping the barricades maintained?
Yeah, I think, well, normally like the order is there because order needs to be there, but there is probably like what the quote unquote mayor of the town. I think her name is Claret Pritchard. And she is like overseeing like collection of like material to rebuild the barricade and stuff to fill into the cracks. So you kind of see her. She's kind of like this. And she's like this kind of like squat sort of woman, but like, you know, broadly built. She's around your age, actually. She kind of looks like someone who's lived through a life, so to speak. Yeah, what do you say to her? I think this is going to go into a role of some sort, just like I know what kind of information you'd get. But like, what do you say to her?
Makes sense. Well, first I'm going to ask: is anyone else in any other players in this scene? You are both welcome to.
If you're talking about defense, I'm absolutely there, though I might not say much.
I'm fine letting you have this scene.
Sounds good. So I think that is it. what was her name? Sorry, Clarence
Uh,
Pritchard.
Claret Pritchard.
Clarence Pritchard. So I see that she's like organizing that like a large piece of metal being like removed from like the remains of a like the remains of a building like the long since collapsed. Most of it's been dug up, and I go over and say, Claret, Mayor Pritchard, could my friend and I help you?
You're the Delvers, aren't you?
We are, and I've got a few questions about this area that you might be uh, better better at answering than anyone else. But there's no point wasting time while we talk. Can we help you move this piece while we discuss these matters?
I think like she's been looking at you like just with a hint of suspicion. But when she says that, when you say that, she kind of like softens a bit and says, "Well, any little help would be helpful."
At this point, Devan reaches forward, basically picks it up, but allows her to keep her hands on it, and he just starts to move the metal entirely on his own, but doesn't pull it out of her hands so she can participate.
And so as these been moved, like Ascot, this I've never seen a town with a barricade so like a barricade that looks so well used and so necessary. What is it that these walls keep out, Clarence?
I think, yeah, this is going to be a roll. This helps me determine how much info will be had. So we're going to do a first action roll of the game. This is quite different. I know I said this is Forged in the Dark, but I think few people would notice that there's quite a few things missing. For one thing, there's no position or effect. So here's what we're going to do. When you attempt, well, actually, no, this might not even be an action roll because you're just asking her. This is a fortune roll, I guess, but I do kind of like want you to make the roll. Let's see, based on just how much she's. So I guess it's kind of like an action roll. I'm sorry, I'm flip flopping. Okay, so to make an action roll, you take one 6-sided die per attribute that you're using. Which one of your 3 attributes do you think you're using?
Probably resolve because that's charisma.
Hell yeah.
And persuasion.
Yeah, and then +1 die if you have an action that applies. Do you think you have one?
Potentially leadership, organize people.
Yeah, I think definitely leadership would apply to this. You may gain up to +1 or -1 or -1 to 2 die if you have a significant advantage or disadvantage. And part of this game is kind of like narrating fiction exactly kind of like what you're doing, because that could give you an advantage or a disadvantage. Like say, I leap in ambush. I was hiding in the dark. That might get you a +1 die. So keep that in mind when everyone else is like making these action rolls. You think there's anything here that's kind of giving you? I guess being just nice and helpful, and like you're a clear member of the Silver Order, and your friends there just like, oh yeah, I'm being helpful. I'm cool. I think I'll give you one advantage. I'll give you an extra die.
That'll be 3 dice.
Yep. You may push to add an extra die, but which is 1 stress, but you only have 4.
I think I'll be okay, thanks. And so it's the highest roll that counts.
Yes.
So a 6.
All right, so it's on a 6. Yeah, you're gonna get great detail. Basically, you succeed, you do the thing. So you ask, why create these barricades? And I think Claret kind of like gives them like a look and says, they've been here for almost as long as I've been here. It's hard to tell who erected them first, given we've lost so much information back in the day. But my mother would tell me stories of when the Murk was young. There are those who, up north, tried to build a church to them. they tried to build a place to worship the Murk. And there are stories of these folks drawn from all different corners of the world to give themselves to the Murk, to bring it forth, whether it's because it seduced them with information, with power, with fantasies beyond their wildest dreams. Who's to say? But it did get to a point where this town had to expend so much to keep away those who would seek to spread the Murk further. I don't know why these gashes have appeared now, but perhaps those who made contact with the Murk, who offered up their lives, have come back and have decided to offer our lives up to it. And I think there's they're one of the more haggard looking warriors, kind of like they look like scouts. They come in and like they whisper something like to your ear, and she says, "You may find more than just strange earthquakes coming up there. We've heard reports of creatures coming from those pits. Strange insects is from what I've heard. Strange insects, and I think there's a point where like she kind of blanches. Because you got a 6, so I'm gonna give you this extra detail. Not just insects. There are those who elected to live outside of Tyrell. It seems they might have been turned against Tyrell, according to my scouts.
This is why we need to keep the fires lit and people within its light. I'm sorry that these people have been lost, but hopefully we can stop any more being taken.
I would not want nothing else.
Hmm.
She kind of like, oh, you can tell she's a bit pious because she does the religious bow sort of things to you. Do you have like a follow-up question? Because we can just abstract how you figure this out. But is that good enough for a 6?
No, that should be good.
I actually lean over and I go, what you're saying is there's some bugs, and then there are some people that are just, unruly that used to live here. I guess the question is, how many we talking? We talking like 3, 30, 1,000? How many folks, are we talking?
I think like Claire's like kind of gives it a thought and says, enough that if the Murk got to them, you would have a horde on your hands, Master Delver.
That's a lot of folks.
Indeed.
All right. Well, gotta get started early then.
I'm glad you're taking this so well, Devan.
I don't know about you, but a whole bunch of people, and a whole bunch of giant bugs have never really bothered my delving in the past.
Okay, so we are just gonna get started. So I'm not gonna force you. There's no good.
I think Stephen had something that he wanted to do previously.
Oh yes, Stephen, is there anything you want to do before we set off?
Oh yeah, I wasn't gonna do it while we were still in town, but like pretty soon after, I was gonna summon my shade.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I think you probably don't want to do that in the middle of town. So I think probably they're gonna let you open like another part of the barricade, not where the noxious gas is, where noxious gash is. So I think like probably like maybe like an hour away, and you're traversing like these god awful, samey looking houses and all these like lawns and streets, all kind of the same. I think yeah, you have enough time to summon your shade. Hazel, what does that look like?
Uh, uh, well, I kind of lay out the candles as part of the ritual, and I draw like a sigil into the ground. In kind of, I probably have kept some over from just birth liquids, just from some of my deliveries. I use it for this. Like have a jar, and I kind of pour it out and like draw the sigil because the mother with myriad young but no children is drawn to the scent of this.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna roll to bring this. creature-
Devon mutters under his breath, I no longer feel bad sneaking urine out to use as a cleaning agent.
Okay, so let's make this.
So that is a good point. Is anyone else
I don't
here in
do
the scene?
this whole ritual in front of them. I probably have to go to the edge of the dark to do this.
Mhm.
Away from the light cage.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, so what attribute are you rolling with this?
Well, I am rolling with prowess. I do have channel.
Mm-hmm. You do
And
have
then
its
I
true
also.
name.
What was that?
You do have its true name because like that ability you start with one shade true
Yeah.
name.
I have its true name, and I'm also using the Thami and black candles. So I think that's another +1. So I think 4
Yes.
dice.
Yes, 4 dice. Yeah, this game does reward like you justifying a lot of the fiction to be like, yeah, this gets me an advantage.
And that's a 5.
Ooh, that's a 5. So 5 is success with a consequence. I think when you speak out like its name, and we'll detail exactly what the shade is and what it can do, because you get 2 out of those 3 things. You have 2 knowledges. But I think when you like speak it out, and I think Amber and Devon will feel this as well. You feel the shadows kind of like ripple. But Hazel, describe what it looks like when the shade of yours kind of comes forth into your world.
I think that as there's a kind of skittering of spiders across the ground that kind of coalesce out, like the darkness like almost like solidifies and coalesces into these spiders that skitter along the ground and like devour the fluids I've left out for them before like kind of scurrying up into my clothes and like whispering with like their myriad as one spider voice to me.
Okay.
So you're glad. I'm glad. I'm sure you're glad you're traveling with me.
Okay. So it says here it has 2 knowledges. So you get 2 out of these 3 like things. Basically, it gives you an extra advantage helping with these sort of things, either slaying, scouting, or assisting with magic. So which out of those 2 do you think your shade friend helps you with?
I think scouting and assisting with magic.
Cool. So keep that in mind when you're doing either.
Yeah.
But here's the complication. I think not only do the shadows kind of reverberate, but I think, and I'm imagining this is like you're probably like in some sort of parking lot near like some sort of, I'm imagining suburbs where I live, which is Dublin. So like it's not really like a mall. It's more like just a bunch of stores and parking in front of them. And I think you feel the ground begin to like shake a bit. Quakes. As always, you can choose to resist a bad outcome with a resistance roll. And this is just the one complication. Like the ground is shaking as if like you, Hazel, reaching out into the murk has kind of gotten their attention. And the ground starts to quake. Do you want to try and resist that?
Okay, and how do you resist in this game?
Okay, so to resist, you're going to pick up one six-sided die per the appropriate attribute that you're resisting, and plus one die per toughening for that attribute. And the outcomes is if you roll two sixes, you can resist multiple things. So say I said this, and also you're getting plus one d4 damage or something like that. You need to do two rolls to do that. But if you roll two sixes in one, you can resist the other. A full resist, which is just 1/6, you resist a thing, which is usually the thing doesn't happen, or half damage versus very powerful foes or something like that. If you only roll a partial resist, you need to mark one stress, but then you still get the full resist. If you roll 1 to 3, you still mark the one stress, but you only reduce the consequence or half the damage coming to you. So you will still resist it, but like if you roll low, you only like reduce like half or less of it. I'm gonna post this in the chat.
Okay, so I roll, in this case, I roll one die because I have one in prowess.
No, you roll one die for prowess, and you roll an extra die because you have one toughening in prowess.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay, sure, I'll try to resist this. Let's see how it goes.
So that's 2 dice. And the first resistance roll. We'll see how this goes.
Oh, there it is. And that's a 4. So I marked one stress and it happens?
Yes, you mark one stress and you fully resist it. So tell me what this looks like when you just throw off the scent, so to speak, or at least make sure like this quake kind of happens, but it doesn't it doesn't start bursting out with creatures and whatnot, which is basically what's going to happen. That was going to be the consequence.
I think happens. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think as the darkness starts to close in around me, I come up with the remainder of the contents of the jar and scatter it out into the dark. And we kind of see the forms of something diving away from the light, almost like it's a shark diving for bait left out on the top of the water.
Nice. I will say that Amber and Devon clearly felt the quake, but then suddenly just come. So I do want to know what Hazel says when she rejoins them in camp. After just something just happened there.
I say something like, "This must be the earthquakes that we're fighting for. I didn't realize they were going to be so dramatic."
Yeah, and Hazel comes back, and her some spiders scurry through her hair, out of her hair as she walks back and scurry back in. The Murk is tempestuous here.
Are you safe, Hazel?
You're never safe with the Murk, but it's like dealing with a wild dog. Hit it a few times and it will run off.
Unfortunately, a wild dog will often come back if it thinks you're not looking. Just stay safe.
Cool. All right. So one thing I also should note is, oh no, the clock is gone. Hold on.
Oh.
Sorry. I'll put it back anyway. I'll keep track of it. There is now a clock for your flame. It's gonna be 6 steps, and if that runs out before you get to the night well, you ain't taking care of that night well. So watch out for that. Okay, so I think you're probably like, you make camp, tell war stories or cobbler stories. I don't know. And I think you kind of like, you're following this like gash into like, and you see like, buildings have kind of like toppled into it. And again, this noxious, just horrible smell coming from them. And I think you reach like the edge of what looks like greenery, and you see that like you're at the edge of like a park, like, but the trees around you, for one thing, the green is gone. It's now just like this parched gray, and the trees have kind of like been knocked askew by the earthquake and whatnot. Just a lot of stuff uprooted and whatnot. And here's another thing you probably noticed: the ground has been sloping downwards ever so slightly as you traverse further up north. So that's fun. And I think in the probably like in the confusion of like wood that's been knocked around, it's kind of made this like makeshift like sort of forest. It's kind of like a lot of like trees knocked about. You probably hear more skittering sounds. Just some.
Yeah, besides the ones coming from Hazel.
Besides the ones. For one thing, they sound bigger.
As a person that has nothing to compare it to, I just think it's motivating.
All right. So you're just gonna jump in, or you're just gonna keep going, or anyone want to do anything to like scout ahead or anything? I want to keep going. I'm perfectly fine with that. I'll just spring something on you.
Yeah, I mean, if nobody else, I kind of am allowing the mother to scurry on ahead and whisper into my ear what she sees as I kind of maintain an outlook, as I maintain an eye myself on things.
Okay.
Just to like describe how I imagine it looks visually. I imagine that the spiders are like staying away from like the light that the silver flame is casting, and so there's just like the scuttling is always in your shadow, and like whenever you turn, there's always like the appearance of like the spiders like crawling away to hide in the dark spot behind you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Nice. Okay, so sounds like another action roll. Which attribute are you rolling for this? Like, are you scouting ahead?
Yeah, well, I mean, this would be resolve, and I have vigilance.
Hell yeah.
So that's 2, and I'm also making use of my my shade was scouting. So that's 3 dice, I believe.
Yeah. I don't think I don't think there's any disadvantage here.
And that's a 5.
That's a 5. So on 5, that's success at a cost. Okay, so like you whisper to the mother to see what's ahead, and I think you kind of see through like the spiders that are kind of like going forward, and I think they kind of like they skitter through the woods to like through the broken up earth, and I think some of them peer over the edge of like the crevice where the things are bubbling up, and I think you see this spider, which I'm guessing is it look like a creepy spider? Or is it just a spider? I'm asking just to contrast to what it's going to see in the crevice.
I think that the spiders themselves aren't what is frightening about the mother. It's more the mass of them and the fact that they act in unison.
Yeah. So I think this swarm kind of like peers over the edge, and you see that like there's this there's these things crawling out of the black ooze, and they're like these weird sort of psychedelic looking six-legged sort of um actually no, it's a cornucopia of different kinds of bugs. um you see, like, there's like mantises or caterpillars, there's like, other spiders, there's like, just maybe there even some butterflies, things like crawl, beetles and whatnot, but they all have this same sort of luminescent weird sort of skin. It's like this weird kaleidoscopic sort of texture, and they see your swarm, and they start rushing out of the crevice. And I think the three of you hear this like swarm rushing out, and I think the mother kind of retreats back to you, Hazel, and you suddenly see all these lights coming through the trees, the three of you, and you see, like, this swarm of kaleidoscopic insects bursting out of the woods. So the complications, basically, they noticed you, Hazel. Do you want to resist that, or do you want to keep it going?
I'm kind of curious about, just to check in, like what in that case in this case is the success on this action roll?
The success is you found what's making the noises, because that you scouted them out. But the complication is that they saw you as well and are rushing towards you. If so the complication would have been they noticed where you are. The success was finding them in the first place. Like, if it had been like a failure or something, I could have done something wrong. It's like, oh, something comes up behind you, and you didn't notice. Here, the success is you have some forewarning.
Okay. No, I feel like we're probably going to have to face these things anyway.
Okay. So, horrible, nasty creatures. Well, they're basically like, I describe them as bugs, but they are like a bit bigger than regular bugs. And again, they have these weird, it's this like, weird different colors. It's like, when frogs change colors to seem poisonous or something. Yeah, that's what's coming out of the woods. So I guess I will turn to like Amber or Devon. Oh.
How big are they? When you say bigger, are we talking?
Maybe as big as this cup.
Oh, Devon is much relaxed right now. He was
they're
afraid
not
that
big.
they would. Well, he was afraid that they would be small enough to get into his armor. So this actually makes him feel better. It's big enough to be a target and smaller enough not to have to itch for the rest of his life. So he draws his sword, grabs his shield, puts the visor down, and says, "My first challenge."
Is there any pre-ass kicking one-liners from Amber, or do you want to see Devon just kick ass?
Not one-liners, but there's definitely something I want to do. So one of the moves I have, abilities I have, is wards. I can attune the flame into barriers or warding circles. And so the way I think, I think I'm, I like take the license, the sensor holding the silver flame, and just walk around in a circle, like tipping it on its side, and this like stream of burning silver oil, like as in it is oil that burns with silver light, pours out of it, and I'm going to walk around in a circle, probably mumbling prayers under my breath, to create this like almost complete circle, like circle fire, with just like a single gap, so that they'll all be forced to rush into that. So as I'm doing this, the scene is just getting brighter and brighter. It's only then you start to notice how deep and dense the shadow outside of this circle is.
Hell yeah.
And Devon smiles and then proceeds to put himself in the gap.
Of course. Before you jump into the gap, let's see how well this ward goes, because you will need to attune. So, which attribute are you rolling?
I'd assume it feels like, honestly, it's insight, because it's to do with smarts. It's like thinking up a good plan and getting it done in time.
So,
which is not one I'm good at.
Yeah, we started with no dice, but that's fine because you have an action that jibes well with
So
this.
yeah, I've got a tune which so I'm onto one die.
Yeah. I'll say you get an advantage because you're the one holding the light cage,
Mhm.
so you're attuning to it to the silver flame. It's right next to you, so I'm saying it get you an extra die.
Makes sense, and I think I will push myself
Okay.
for this
So you
to give me
spend
a
one
third
stress
die.
to add an extra die.
Yeah. Let's see.
Don't worry if we run out of stress, you will just get
Mhm.
knocked out, but you will need to be saved by one of your friends.
That would be a crit.
Oh wow! Oh my gosh! So I think you succeed and go beyond. So I think what the
Can I jump in?
success. Yeah. Oh yeah. Actually, the two of
Uh,
you can like collaborate and see.
I think that the circle goes all the way around.
Mhm.
Then she looks at me and she smiles, and then she makes like a tiny little 1-foot barrier right through the area that's protected. So not only can they not get through,
Mhm.
but so they can't, so it makes it like a berm, like a little barrier for that last of the 360 degrees. So it makes it easier for me to fight them.
Hell yeah! Actually, this is part of the crit as well. Roll me a d6, Amber. This is gonna be the amount of damage you deal to this swarm, which does have a stat block. I've had to
Nice.
make stat blocks. I've never ran D&D. This is the first time I have to make a stat block like this.
That would only be a 3.
No worries. Because it was an AOE, it takes the full brunt. Hold on, copy paste this. So, okay, so 1, 2, 3. I have to do math. What's up with that? But yeah, I think definitely they try to like rush your barrier, but like a lot of it gets singed. And then they retreat back. I think just as Devan jumps through the barrier and you see the swarm is kind of piling in itself and it's trying to form like this bigger sort of figure and like, piles of other bugs keep dropping off it, but it's trying to turn into like a giant sort of like praying mantis. It's like weird luminescent and its light is like sickly compared to the light of the silver flame. Like silver flame is, it's holy, it's pure. Here it's just garish. It's disgusting. Devan, what do you do?
So I just really love the contrast of like there's holy light and then there's garish light. The real sin is bad color theory.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's just why did you pair those colors together? Yellow and purple? That doesn't make any sense. Come on, Lakers. Anyway, Devan, what do you do?
I weapon. I say it'd be a lot convincing. Brought a trench coat. And then I swing at this conglomeration of insects. So, would this be skirmish? I'm assuming.
Yeah. Oh, we start with attributes. So would it be prowess, insight, or
prowess?
resolve? Yeah.
I think prowess, and then skirmish.
What weapon are you using?
My sword.
Okay, cool. So I think normally like because this swarm takes like half damage and it's done by area of attacks, but because part of that crit is forcing it into this like one form, I think that gets you like the advantage. So I'll give you another extra die. Here's the thing that only Steven knows. I'm incredibly generous to people. I'm horribly generous. If you can convince me to give you the extra die, you will.
All right. So I would roll 3d6. 4, 4, 4. Okay.
Oh, it's success at a cost. So so some of the costs could be, okay. Actually, I think the opponent is gonna deal their damage. So tell me what this looks like when you kind of like jump into the fray.
Basically, I step in gap. I see this start to form. I bash it with my shield, and then I start to proceed to, whip down with my sword into the mass of the creature.
Okay.
More concerned about me hitting them than them hitting me.
Yeah, because they are kind of swarm all over you, and they're biting and clawing. And roll me a d6 because this is going to be their damage to you, and then we'll figure out if you want to resist that. But you do have armor and whatnot. But let's see how much damage.
A 2.
Hey, okay, so your armor totally soaks it. Like, so you don't even.
So what is it that's hurting you? How are you hurt?
I'm more inconvenienced than hurt, I would think. Like there's just a lot of ichor and goo that's going to really have to be cleaned off.
Yeah. So now
Yeah.
let's roll your damage because your armor will soak that too. So roll me your melee weapon rolls a d6, right?
Yep. So I'll reroll selected. It's a 5.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's a chunk and a half. It's actually you took out more than half of its remaining HP, for sure. So I think definitely this thing is like, I think the two of you inside the fire, Amber and Hazel, you can see like Devon is doing really well. Like these insects are trying to get through, but this armor is like tight as a cobbler can make it. Tight.
Wait, you're a cobbler. Why are you using a sword and you could be stomping on them?
I've been killing bugs my whole life. Don't tell me my job. This is one thing I know.
I'm going to turn to Hazel.
This is how he got all the XP to reach level 1.
Yes, I've been leveling up on bugs.
Yeah, so I'm gonna turn to Hazel. What do you do? This big attempted at a conglomeration bug mantis thing looks like it's reeling against Devon's assault. I mean, I'll turn to you, Hazel, because you haven't rolled yet. But if anyone else has an idea of like what to do next, I'll turn to Hazel first.
I mean, yeah, what can I do here? I'm not really... Well, actually... Yeah, this thing's reeling. I kind of... Yeah, I'm gonna jam my hand into this thing.
Ooh.
I'm reaching out with my power and I'm like just kind of trying to think. I guess I'm kind of like I kind of am trying to like not necessarily completely bind it, but like I want this creature to retreat back to where it was spawned. Like I want to like find a way of like using this thing to trace it back to its like origin.
God. Okay. Yeah, that's perfectly doable. For sure. All right. What are you?
This is my other ability, which is I can bind, still, or command Murk beasts.
Hell yeah. Okay. So, what are you rolling with this? What's the attribute?
So I don't know. It tells me to resolve, resist their will/strength. So do I take an action or do I just make a resist roll?
Ooh. Yeah. I think. Yeah. I think you will still have. I think you're gonna do it regardless if you fail or succeed. That's what's gonna happen. You will still have to do a resist roll. I think it's a requirement.
Okay, I think it's maybe just telling me that like even though you'd probably use prowess to because it's channel, you have to roll resolve to resist. Okay.
Yeah. So let's do the action roll first, and then we'll do the resist roll.
Yeah, well, I am channeling, so it's 2. It's also reeling, and it's been fucked up pretty badly by the rest of the party at this point.
Yeah.
So do you think that's an extra die per position?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, there's no trading position for effect. No, it's just what's happening in the fiction. But yeah, that's absolutely an extra die.
Okay, let's see.
I mean,
that's a 3.
Oh, buddy.
Oh.
Okay, so on the 3.
Oh wait, no, I forgot. I also have the help from my companion.
Oh yes. You're the mother. So roll 1 extra die.
No, it's another 3.
Oh my god. Okay. All right. So you plunge your hand into this mess, and I think, oh gosh, let me look through this. Okay. Okay. A couple of things happen. First,
Fair.
first you feel a multitude of pincers dig into your hand. This is going to be roll a d6. This is going to be there, and this is going to ignore armor.
Okay.
You can resist that once we know how much damage you're taking.
4.
4. Okay.
So I'm probably gonna resist that, but
Yeah, yes, and the resolve resist that requires for this binding. I think that's going to help color what. I'll give you something. It won't be good, but I'll give you something. But that'll depend on that other resist one. Let's do this one first.
is something else happening though that you also wanted to say?
I want to
You
see.
said a couple things.
Yeah, a couple of things, but I want to see what because you're going to do 2 resist rolls. I want to see
Okay.
the result of your second one. This one is to resist the poisonous bite. What attribute do you think that is?
I mean, probably if I'm resisting the poisonous bite, I'd have to roll with prowess here, right? Rather than, or maybe no, I guess maybe insight.
Oh, actually, I just realized. I'm looking at my stats. When it says poisonous bite is different from what happened to Devon in that it has to be a resolve.
Okay, it has to be resolved.
Yeah, which is
Well,
actually
that's-
helpful to you.
Yeah, perfect for me.
Just
Wait, wouldn't isn't prowess for physical toughness, whereas resolve is more for mental toughness and willpower?
yeah, but according to this stat line, this has to be a resolve save,
Fair enough.
and I copy pasted this from the book. So
I think like resolve is. I guess I'm just powering through whatever they're drugging me with.
Yeah, it's probably more painful than it is damaging.
Yeah, I
Maybe
get
that's
a 4. So so let's see, that's resisted, but I mark stress.
yes, you mark 1 stress for a full resist. Let's see. There's not a powerful foe, so yeah, I think you will just resist that damage, but mark another stress. Oh no.
Whatever.
And then you make another resolve resist because that's part of the binding. And then how well you resist will determine kind of like this other thing that's going to happen. So make another resolve resist.
Okay.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Hey, it's a 6.
Hey, so I think you get a quick vision. You get a quick vision of skittering through tunnels, skittering through like gaps in. You can't tell what gaps, like in between rocks, in between trees, in between pieces of air, in between pieces of. It's hard to tell, but I think you get like a quick like sort of vision, and then you see. You come out of the ground and you kind of see that like there's this like sloping sort of this big pit, this really big pit, and you see like a lot of like buildings are tumbling into it, like a lot of like suburban housing, a lot of like different sort of debris is tumbling into the middle of this pit. And I think in the distance you see what looks like the walls of a church right in the middle of the pit. Also, you see these like, also because your vision's not that great, you see like walking around the pit are these like tall, gigantic, sort of white figures. They're kind of bulbous looking, and yeah, they're kind of like bulbous looking, and they slouch around. They're kind of human shaped, but they look really big, and they're marching through like the debris around the church. And then we cut back to you, and you're still in the middle of the fire, and this thing is still alive. Well, but it's still kind of reeling. Is that okay for a 6 resist?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I think we'll turn to Amber. This thing's still alive. Devon is having the time of his life, but it's still kind of like it's trying to like trying to reform itself as much as most of it's being stomped away. What do you do, Amber?
So I think I want to get Hazel like out of danger. The fact that like your arm like is buried inside this like writhing mass of like things. Stephen, like is that something that you're okay with me doing? It's like, or would you rather be in that
Yeah,
position?
go ahead.
Okay. So
Okay.
so
As you're doing this, Devon goes, Miss Hazel, Miss Amber, please get out of combat. He's very polite.
no.
He's a good boy.
So yeah, so I think like the camera kind of show like your arms in this thing, and probably like being like pulled in more by like so many small like arms, legs, and teeth, and just like everything's getting darker like around the edges of the camera, and then from this like wall of fire behind you, like an arm just like reaches out, tries to grab you by by your other hand, and try to pull you in through back through the fire and keep you safe.
Oh yeah.
So that would probably be prowess.
Yeah.
So probably prowess athletics, but I don't have athletics, so that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, we could come up with a bullshit reason for leadership. You're...
Do you say something, Amber, to Hazel? Because this is kind of interesting because Hazel has been dealings with the Murk, but you are rushing forward to like save her. Was there anything you say so we can justify this bullshit?
I mean, this is also getting you XP if you like push on this.
Like I don't think necessarily save. Like I think there's like a moment where you look at me, and whereas like maybe you'd be expecting like anger or instead of just like this like calm smile, like the breathers have been pulled out of my like down from my face, just like a gentle smile, and it feels less like it looks less like I'm pulling you physically, and more just I'm offering you like a hand. And I think like from visual storytelling, the fact there's a member of the church trying to like offer you a hand, and like this writhing creature of darkness trying to pull you in, I think is quite meaningful.
Right.
Metaphorical. Yeah, but I think it's more just like a face that tries to show you that you're always welcome in the light.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think that's good enough for leadership. I will say, because it's a lovely bit of stereotyping. It is a bit bullshit. I think you don't get any other advantage.
Yeah, I am totally fine with that.
All right, cool. So that's 2 dice.
A 5.
Yeah, 5. So success at a cost. So I think, I think this is a moment where like you're kind of like pulling away from the light a bit to reach out to like someone who's deep in the dark. So I think roll me a d6, and this is the amount of corruption you're going to take.
Can you explain how corruption works? Because that's not something I'm aware of.
Yeah. So corruption is basically, it's kind of like it's a ticking clock, so to speak. Once you reach 40, your character's gone. So you can take as much as you want, but like the Murk will start leaving effects on you,
cool.
so to speak. So like a 10 plus corruption, you find that like the flame is just a bit too bright, and you might even need to wear goggles around it. At 20 plus corruption, you get like minor physical signs, like your eyes become like more dark, pitch black, get sharpened teeth, you crave blood. 30 plus corruption is major changes. You might get claws or fur or feathers. You might be able to understand these Murk beasts. You will need to resist shades or the night well, because they'll try to command you if you're at 30 plus corruption. At 40, you're gone, and the order will come to end you, and you'll no longer be a playable character. In fact, your character might depart into the Murk, and the next session we might have to kill you. So roll me a d6.
I did, and that would be a 6, which I assume is a bad number for now.
Yes, because you're going to take exactly 6 corruption.
That makes sense.
Yeah, unless you want to resist that. You will still do this. You will draw Hazel away from the creature.
I'm not going to resist, because I feel like it's more interesting if I don't. And I think potentially visually the way this is represented is like one of the spiders that was on like a few of them start like crawling up my hand and into my sleeve.
Oh God. Okay, mark that. But yeah, you managed to like grab. Yeah, you managed to get Hazel away, which leaves Devon. I think.
Devon takes this opportunity. He saw what was going on. He pushes forward with his shield and his sword, and he basically tries to push all of the bugs to the ground underneath him to crush him with the weight of his armored body.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So, what are you rolling attribute-wise?
I guess skirmish prowess, and
Yeah.
I don't know if I've got an advantage because it's distracted working on the other creatures or other folks.
Yes, I think that'll give you an advantage because it like someone tried to put their arm into it.
Yeah.
Got a bit distracted there.
So I will roll these 3, and I got 4, 4, 2 again. Oh,
Oh.
sorry, 4. Sorry, got a 5.
Okay, cool. Well, 4 to
So-
5 is like success at a cost. So I think, you know what? Just to make it simple, I think you're gonna roll d6, but take half of it. That's the damage you're gonna be dealing. You're gonna deal limited damage.
Okay. I rolled a 1.
Oh my God. I think it'll still be a 1. So, I think what happens is, I mean, yeah, you're still gonna do it. You're gonna like you. The thing is, you try to knock down a conglomeration of things, for sure, and you squash quite a bit of it. I'll say right now, it is down to 2 HP. I'll say that straight up. And I think like, actually, I'll give you this choice. It'll try to like escape. I will say that like if you let it go now, if you try to make loot out of the things you crushed or whatever, it's gonna be at a -1 die if you let it escape now. If you kill it off, there's not gonna be a penalty to making loot out of what's left.
Oh, I'd want to kill it off.
Okay, all right. So I think you squash quite a bit of it, but like enough sneaks out from under you and starts reforming. This time it's trying to form into like a worm shape.
Yeah, you don't throw something at a bug and scare it off. You kill it.
Yeah, absolutely kill it.
So like you say, like it's trying to like form into a worm, and like Devon is like it's like just landed on the floor. Is it like a worm trying to form around him? Like
Ooh. I think it's trying to reform above him, and it looks like that thing where like it's gonna latch onto his head, for sure.
Oh, nothing useful. I'm good. It's not like it's going with my arms or anything.
So I'll turn to like either Amber or Hazel. What do you do? Because Devon is on the floor. The two of you are in the clear, in the fire. I'll turn to Ivor.
I'll leave this to you.
Oh, well, the person that has no capacity for this.
Like, if you want to create like bullshit, like you channel the Murk and like create a portal or something, that's doable. Like,
Yeah, but at the same time, like you literally wrote onto my character sheet, "very dangerous to use."
oh, well, look, I didn't. I'm just saying, there's consequences for channeling. Also, that came from the book. I didn't
Okay.
put that there.
But also, very dangerous to use just means fun.
I get if like you don't want to like risk your character. You're already at half the stress you can have at the moment. But no, it's
I
up
mean,
to you.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna draw my theme and try to stab into this thing, and it's currently focusing on Philip, right? Is Philip the yes? No,
Yes.
okay, David. David is the character.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, yeah. It's formed this like worm thing, and it's gonna do the thing.
Yeah, let's roll this 1 die I get for like being able to fight with that but with that bonus.
Okay. Yes, it's distracted.
Let's see how this works.
Yeah.
And that's a 2.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, all right.
Roll for damage against me.
I think you'd be in pretty good shape if I had to roll for damage against you.
Yeah, because
yeah.
you have a lot of armor.
Stop helping!
Okay, all right.
If anything, I'm distracting it for your killing blow, Daven.
Let's see what could happen. Yeah, I think you reach. I'm sorry, Amber, but Hazel did it. She reached out again. Uh, as soon as like you kind of reach forward, as soon as like you breach the protection of like the flame, the worm just kind of like looks like it's about to reach to Daven, and then it swerves in mid like swipe and starts trying to swallow up your arm. Hazel. I think it's okay. The complication is gonna take your athame away from you, and also deal damage because you rolled a 2. So
Oh, that thing cost me 3 coin. I'm gonna let it take it.
okay, but you will need to resist multiple times. You want to resist the damage and the athame being taken away.
Can I take the damage first to see how much it actually does to me?
Okay, roll d6. This is their swarm all over biting, clawing attack. That's what it says here in the stat line.
2.
Okay, yeah. So take that damage.
Yeah, I'll just take that damage.
Okay. Hey, look, if you take more, then you can go to Amber for healing, and we can get that XP trigger.
Yeah.
Okay, so how are you resisting your athame being taken away?
I mean, I guess I kind of let some of the power I draw from the Murk kind of channel into this thing, and I try to kind of let it out and let it like shoot pain into this creature to like get it to let go. Like I'm not really injuring it, but it's kind of like I'm giving it a little shock.
That makes sense. Which attribute is that?
Prowess?
Prowess. Yeah, I'd be down for prowess. So you roll 1 for the attribute and 1 per toughening. So it's 2 dice.
And that's 5. So
cool. So partial resist. You mark 1 stress to make that full resist. So you're down to 1 last stress left.
yeah, haven't been getting good rolls.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
You see, Leandra, you always complain, and then I join your games, and
well, look, last time I ran a Forged in the Dark game for you, you rolled nothing but 6s. You became a giant woman. I couldn't do anything against that. Look, it just it just happens.
No,
all right.
I know it's fine. I'm not complaining.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. So the worm retracts back. Amber, you're our next hope. It is down to 2 HP. Hazel has once again thrust her arm into this thing, and it did not come off well. Although it looks like at least she managed to save herself this time. What do you do, Amber?
So one of the equipments I bought was an unbreakable chain, which burns the beasts, I believe.
Yes.
Yep. And so I think that is the chain that the that the silver flame is on. And it's like a flare. And it's this like. It's almost as if it like refracts the light of the hanging flame through it and just like glows its own light. And I think I'm going to step through and be like swinging that through through the creature, just like smoke pouring out, and trying to fight that like shimmering, twisting psychedelic light with the holy light of the silver flame.
Hell yeah. this tableau is incredibly badass. I mean, Devon is lying on his ass, but he was still pretty cool in there. Cool. What are you rolling?
This has got to be prowess.
Hell yeah.
It's fighting. And maybe also no. Never mind. Like,
If
I
you
was
could be
thinking about
attuned if you want to.
Actually, yeah. I think attune makes sense.
You have the light cage with the silver flame attached to this chain, I think.
Yeah. So I was thinking up so one of the abilities I could have taken but didn't is I can attune the flame to a weapon to do an extra 1d6 damage. And I was thinking, would using attune be like trying to get that ability without actually having to have the ability? But I think I'm not doing the extra damage.
You're just hitting it with the chain.
Yeah, that's currently a 2d6.
Yeah. I think because the chain says it burns Murk monsters, I'll give you an advantage for that.
Cool. Oh
God.
Oh no.
Okay. All right. I think I know what a consequence will end this. So we'll give you a cliffhanger. Okay. You swing this this chain, and I think the worm. You can see the swarm form around the light cage, avoiding it, and it kind of like skims. It's skimming on the chain. It's burning them up. It's burning them up, but they're getting to you, Amber. And I think like this swarm is spending itself, and a lot of it is like being burned off as it skitters the chain, trying to get to you, Amber. And then I think there's like this one last gasp, and it's like this clump of like actually this gigantic beetle, kind of like it tries to latch onto your face. When I say tries, you fail the roll, so it will latch onto your face. And suddenly you just feel this nauseating compulsion within you, Amber, to just suddenly you feel so hungry. You feel horribly empty and just cold, and you need to like feed and whatnot. Roll me another d6 of corruption. No, we're only here for 2 sessions. We gotta play it like we stole it.
That would be another 3.
Okay, cool. So do you want to take that? That'll bump you up to 9. You 1 corruption away from the threshold.
No. There's I've got to resist that.
Okay. Cool. How are you resisting this? What does it look like?
So I think there's this feeling of just like incredible emptiness. Like I'm just like this hollow shell that I need to fill up, and it's like the consume and fill myself up with this with something like dark and heavy and sodden, trying to fill a cave with meat, but then I don't feel so empty anymore. And I think there's just this light inside of me, and even though there's nothing physically there, even though there's still this sense of emptiness within me, there's this tiny spark of light. There's the heart of all people, and it just fills me up with luminance and light, and I need no physical succor. I have the light within me.
Hell yeah. So which attribute are you rolling for this?
That would be resolve.
Hell yeah. Roll them 3 dice.
Nice. That would be a crit.
Hey, so on a crit, screw that corruption. Yeah, there's a light shining in you, and I think the beetle just kind of it jumps back as if it's burnt, and I think it probably lands in front of Devon's face as whatnot, and it's skittering, it's curling up, but just how burnt it is. And I think there's even this shining light that kind of pierces through the dark. I mean, there's already a fire around you, but I think definitely this kind of silver flame just kind of rings out throughout this forest, and this swarm is just burnt away by this chain and this light cage. And I think there's like this heightened moment, and then the fire kind of fades, and y'all can take a breath.
I look at my sword and I look at the chain. I go, where was the chain section of that armory?
You are welcome to forge your own if you're willing to join the order.
I'm sort of busy, but maybe. We'll see. Thank you for the offer.
Cool. I think that's where we're gonna end off. Well, actually, I do want to see where Hazel is at as well. Or let's have a last shot of each of the three of you as you're kind of calming down from this, and we'll kind of like do like we'll see what loot you get next session and whatnot. We'll continue this expedition. But
I'm brushing bugs off my sleeve.
And I'm probably cleaning bug goo out of the joints of my armor.
And I think I've just like planted this the pole with the silver flame hanging planted in the ground, and it's just like slowly like rocking back and forwards while like sit against a tree and like look into it, and like the light is refracted a dozen times in my like huge spectacles.
hell yeah, I think I'm gonna end with like a cliffhanger shot. Well, obviously, we're not gonna leave you in a cliffhanger, but I think what the audience sees is like we can like zoom away from that and kind of like away to the trees, and we find this like lone, probably skittering sort of caterpillar going, it's luminescent, it's horrible, it's garish, it's skittering through the trees and skittering through like rocks, the concrete, and then when it finally like skitters up, it skitters up to like this lone figure kind of sitting almost exactly like you were, Amber, except and they're wearing what looks like nun's garb, like this this cloak, but it looks dark, but not because it's color dark, because it looks grimy, it's filthy, it has all this like different sorts of humors and stuff kind of like coating it, and then we kind of get a shot of like this nun, for lack of a better term, kind of like this hooded figure just sitting on the ground looking at this like this pit where the church is, and the caterpillar kind of like crawls up it and inside the hood. And that's where we leave off, and we'll find out. We'll see how y'all get on next week. So I'm gonna stop this recording, and well, I always like to say on recording that y'all have been fantastic. I just love, oh god, I love these characters and the way you're trying to solve problems, so to speak. And I love the color that y'all have added to this world for sure. I always like to get that on the record. We'll do like a round of stars and wishes afterwards. I stop recording, but yeah, that was fab. If anyone wants to check out, anyone who's watching, wants to check out the Gauntlet, there'll be links down below. If you want to check out Into the Dark, again by Strash Ashamovic and John W. Sheldon, there'll be also a link below to check out all where you can grab that. Other than that, I'm gonna say goodbye to YouTube. Stop this recording. Bye, YouTube.